What if I told you that every video you've watched, every course you've bought, every transformation promise you've chased was designed to keep you searching, not to help you find? I know that sounds dramatic. I know it sounds like another clickbait claim. But stay with me for just 45 seconds, because what I'm about to show you will fundamentally change how you see everything you've been doing up until this moment. Here's the truth nobody's talking about. Your brain has been trapped in what neuroscientists call the information consumption loop, and it's literally rewiring your prefrontal cortex to seek answers instead of creating results. Every single video you watch, every article you save, every course you bookmark is strengthening a neural pathway that keeps you perpetually preparing instead of permanently transforming. But there's something happening right now in quantum physics called the observer effect that explains why you're stuck and how to break free in the next 10 minutes. This isn't metaphor. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This is actual science that bridges the gap between consciousness and physical reality. I'm about to show you the version of yourself who no longer needs videos like this. Not because you've learned everything, but because you've integrated the one principle that makes all other learning obsolete. And in the next 10 minutes, I'm revealing why your brain has been hardwired to resist implementation, and the exact neuro-hack that turns knowledge into automatic reality creation. This isn't another lesson. This is the last lesson you'll ever need. Look, I need to be straight with you from the beginning. I've been exactly where you are. I've been the person with 17 tabs open, 43 videos bookmarked, and a notes app filled with strategies I never implemented. I've been the person who could give a TED talk on transformation, but couldn't transform my own Tuesday afternoon. And for years, I thought the problem was me. I thought I lacked discipline. I thought I needed more willpower. I thought if I just found the right system, the right teacher, the right framework, everything would click into place. But neuroscience reveals something completely different. And when I discovered this, it changed everything. You're not failing at execution. You're succeeding at exactly what your reticular activating system has been calibrated to do: consume, not create, seek, not find, prepare, not perform. See, traditional self-help operates on a fundamentally broken model. It assumes that more information equals more transformation. It assumes that if you just learn enough, read enough, watch enough, you'll eventually reach some critical mass where change becomes inevitable. But your RACE, this tiny network at the base of your brain, STEM, has been trained to filter reality for learning opportunities, not becoming opportunities. It's been trained to scan your environment for the next piece of information, the next insight, the next breakthrough. And every time it finds one, you get a dopamine hit that reinforces the searching behavior. That's why you can watch 100 videos on confidence and still feel insecure. Why you can read 50 books on wealth and still feel broke. Why you can know exactly what to do and still not do it. You've been optimizing for the wrong neural pathway. You've been training your brain to be a spectacular student instead of an actual creator. And here's the part that's going to sound harsh, but I need you to hear it. The entire self-help industry is economically incentivized to keep you in this loop. Think about it. If you actually transform permanently from one video, one book, one course, they'd lose a customer. But if you stay in perpetual seeking mode, always looking for the next level, the next upgrade, the next secret, you're a customer for life. Now, I'm not saying teachers and creators are consciously manipulating you. Most of them genuinely want to help. But the system itself is designed to create dependency, not sovereignty. So right now, I want you to do something. Type ready in the comments if you've ever felt like you're fighting against your own mind. If you've ever wondered why knowing what to do isn't the same as becoming who you need to be. If you've ever felt that gap between understanding and embodiment and couldn't figure out how to bridge it. Because what I'm about to share changes everything. And I need to know you're actually here for transformation, not just information. All right, let me introduce you to 3 principles that separate seekers from finders. These aren't motivational concepts. These are hard science backed by peer-reviewed research. And when you understand how they work together, you'll see exactly why you've been stuck and exactly how to get unstuck. First principle, neuroplasticity isn't enough. Everyone talks about neuroplasticity. It's become this buzzword in the personal development space. Your brain can rewire itself. You can change your neural pathways. You're not stuck with the brain you were born with. All of that is true. But here's what they don't tell you, and this is critical. Without the right input sequence, without the right pattern of stimulation, your brain defaults back to its baseline within 72 hours. 72 hours. That's it. Think of your brain like a magnetic field. Every thought you think, every video you watch, every piece of content you consume creates a temporary magnetic pull in a certain direction. Your neural networks start firing in new patterns. You feel inspired. You feel motivated. You feel like this is finally the moment everything changes. But unless you collapse that energy into a fixed point and I'm going to explain exactly what that means in a moment unless you take that diffuse potential and crystallize it into actual structure. It dissipates. The magnetic field weakens. The neural pathways that started forming begin to prune away, and within 3 days, you're back to baseline. This is why you can have a breakthrough moment on Sunday night and by Wednesday afternoon, feel like it never happened. It's not that you lack commitment. It's that you didn't understand the mechanism of consolidation. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Harvard conducted a study where they had 2 groups of people learning piano. One group physically practiced for 2 hours a day. The other group mentally rehearsed for 2 hours a day. They just imagined themselves playing. Imagine the feel of the keys, the sound of the notes, the movement of their fingers. After 5 days, they did brain scans on both groups. And what they found was absolutely remarkable. The motor cortex development in both groups was nearly identical. The people who only imagined playing showed almost the same neural growth as the people who actually played. But here's the key detail that most people miss when they hear this study. The mental rehearsal had to be specific, embodied, and repeated within a compressed time frame. It wasn't casual daydreaming. It wasn't vague visualization. It was detailed, sensory-rich, emotionally engaged mental practice done consistently for multiple days in a row. That's the input sequence. That's what creates permanent change. Not information, not inspiration, not even practice, but specific, repeated, embodied activation that forces your brain to commit resources to building new structure. Second principle, the observer effect in consciousness. Now let's talk about quantum mechanics, and I promise I'm going somewhere practical with this. In quantum physics, there's a phenomenon called the observer effect. It was discovered through the famous double-slit experiment, and it fundamentally changed how we understand reality. Here's the simple version. At the quantum level, particles exist in what's called a superposition state. They're not in one place or another. They're in all possible places simultaneously. They exist as a wave of probability, not as a fixed thing. But the moment you observe them, the moment you measure them, all those possibilities collapse into one specific reality. The wave function collapses. The particle appears in one location. Now, for decades, scientists debated what observation actually meant. Did it require a conscious observer? Was it just about measurement? What was the mechanism? And here's what the research increasingly suggests. Consciousness itself is the collapsing mechanism. The act of focused awareness takes potential and makes it actual. Your brain works exactly the same way. Right now, you exist in a superposition of all possible versions of yourself. The you who's confident, the you who's wealthy, the you who's healthy, the you who has their life together. These aren't future possibilities. These are current probabilities existing in the quantum field of your potential. And the version that becomes your actual lived reality is determined by where you place your observation, not where you place your hope, not where you place your desire, where you place your sustained, focused, embodied observation. Dr. Joe Dispenza has done extensive research on this at the University of California. He's shown that focused mental rehearsal, what he calls mental movies, creates the same brain signatures as lived experience. Your nervous system literally cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined reality and a physical one. When you imagine something with enough sensory detail, enough emotional engagement, enough consistency, your brain starts building the neural architecture as if it's already happening. Your autonomic nervous system starts responding as if it's real. Your hormonal cascade shifts as if the environment has changed. You're not pretending. You're not faking it till you make it. You're collapsing probability waves through the quantum mechanism of conscious observation. Third principle, the information saturation paradox. Now here's where everything comes together, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video. There is a critical threshold where more information actively prevents transformation. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, but it goes way deeper than that. Every piece of information you consume creates what's called a decision node in your prefrontal cortex. It's a branch point, a place where you could potentially take action. When you have a few decision nodes, your brain can process them. It can evaluate options and choose a path. But when you accumulate dozens or hundreds of decision nodes, which is exactly what happens when you consume massive amounts of transformation content, your brain enters what neuroscientists call cognitive overload state. In this state, your prefrontal cortex basically shuts down high-order decision-making. It's too overwhelmed. Too many options. Too many possibilities. Too many strategies all claiming to be the answer. And here's the survival mechanism that kicks in. Your brain defaults to more information gathering as a coping mechanism. Because gathering information feels productive, it feels like progress. It gives you the illusion of moving forward while actually keeping you safe from the risk of real action. There's a famous study from Stanford on decision-making. Researchers set up a booth at a grocery store offering samples of jam. In one condition, they displayed 24 varieties. In another condition, they displayed 6 varieties. Guess which booth had more people stop to sample? The one with 24 varieties. More options, more interest. But here's what's crazy. The people who saw 24 options were 10 times less likely to actually purchase jam than the people who saw only 6 options. More choice led to less action. Your transformation journey works exactly the same way. Every video you watch, every strategy you learn, every framework you discover is adding more jams to your table. And your brain is becoming increasingly paralyzed. This is the information saturation paradox. The more you learn, the less you do. The more you know, the less you embody. The more you understand, the less you transform. Now, here's where most people watching this video are going to hit a wall. And I need to address this directly, because if we don't, your brain is going to use it as an excuse to dismiss everything I just said. You're sitting here right now, and part of your brain is saying something like, "Okay, but I've heard stuff like this before. What makes this different? How is this not just another video telling me I watch too many videos?" That voice? That skeptical, been there, done that, show me something new voice? That's not rational thinking. That's not healthy skepticism. That's homeostasis. Your brain has a biological imperative to keep you safe. And in your brain's ancient operating system, safety equals sameness. Your nervous system has developed what neuroscientists call an identity set point. It's the range of thoughts, behaviors, and experiences that your brain recognizes as you. And here's the absolutely fascinating part. Your brain will literally generate logical-sounding arguments to defend that set point. It will create what feel like rational objections. It will produce what seem like legitimate concerns. It'll say things like, "I need more information before I can really commit to this. This probably won't work for me because my situation is different. I should finish all those other courses and videos first, then come back to this. I need to think about this more before I take action." These feel like thoughts. They feel like your authentic concerns, but they're not. They're automated defense mechanisms. They're your brain's way of protecting the current identity structure from the perceived threat of change. And the more profound the potential change, the louder these mechanisms get. Think about it. If you're watching a video about how to cook pasta, your brain doesn't resist. Why? Because learning to cook pasta doesn't threaten your identity. But a video that suggests you could completely transform your reality, that you could become a fundamentally different version of yourself, that's a fifth alarm fire in your nervous system. Now, here's the really tricky part. This resistance is happening at a level below your conscious awareness. You're not deliberately choosing to resist. You genuinely believe the thoughts your brain is generating. You genuinely feel like your skepticism is protecting you from being fooled again. But let me offer you a different frame. A cognitive reframe that might help you see this pattern more clearly. What if the reason you keep searching for the next video, the next breakthrough, the next missing piece isn't because you haven't found the right information, but because you've been chemically rewarded for searching, not for finding? Here's how it works. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter everyone associates with pleasure and reward, doesn't actually spike when you achieve a goal. It spikes in anticipation of achieving a goal. The research on this is crystal clear. When you click on a new video promising transformation, when you start a new course, when you discover a new teacher who seems like they finally get it, that moment of anticipation, that moment of maybe this is it, your brain floods with dopamine. You feel good. You feel hopeful. You feel like you're finally on the right path. But then you actually have to do the work. You actually have to implement. You actually have to change. And that doesn't come with a dopamine hit. That comes with discomfort, uncertainty, and the hard work of rewiring your nervous system. So what does your brain do? It goes back to seeking. Because seeking feels better than finding. The anticipation is more rewarding than the achievement. And you've accidentally trained yourself to be a professional seeker. Every new bookmark, every new subscription, every new notification. You're getting tiny hits of dopamine that reinforce the pattern of searching instead of embodying. This is why people can spend years in personal development and never develop. They're not there for transformation. They're there for the feeling of being on the verge of transformation. They're addicted to the anticipation. And if this is landing for you, if you're seeing your own pattern reflected back at you, here's what I want you to do. Hit the like button on this video. Not for me, not for the algorithm, but as a conscious declaration to your own nervous system that you're choosing to break this pattern. That simple action, that conscious choice to engage instead of passively consume, starts to collapse the wave function. It starts to shift your brain from seeking mode to embodiment mode. All right, so now you understand the neuroscience. You understand the quantum mechanics. You understand why you've been stuck in this loop. Now let me give you the protocol. 3 steps. This is what you actually do. And I'm going to be very specific here because vague guidance just creates more decision nodes and more overwhelm. Step 1, the collapse. Right now, and I mean right now, in the next 60 seconds, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to do something very specific. I want you to imagine the version of you who no longer needs to watch videos like this. Not because you've learned everything. Not because you're perfect. Not because you have it all figured out. But because you've integrated the core principles so deeply that they're automatic. They're who you are, not what you do. What does that version of you feel in their body? And I don't mean think about how they feel. I mean actually feel it. Is there more space in your chest? Is your breath deeper? Is there a different quality to your nervous system, maybe more settled, more grounded, more present? What's their baseline energy throughout the day? Not their peak state when they're pumped up. Their baseline, the you who just woke up, the you in the middle of a random Tuesday. What does that feel like? How do they make decisions? When a choice comes up, what's the internal process? Is there less second guessing? Less anxiety? More clarity? More trust? What's their relationship to information? When they see a new video or course, what happens? Do they feel that pull to consume? Or do they feel complete, satisfied, already enough? I want you to spend 60 full seconds in that state, not visualizing it like you're watching a movie, embodying it, feeling it from the inside out. Let your nervous system experience what it's like to be that version of you. This is the observer effect in action. You're not pretending. You're not imagining some fantasy future. You're collapsing a probability wave. You're taking a version of you that exists in quantum superposition, and you're making it more real, more solid, more actual through the mechanism of conscious embodiment. Do you feel it? Do you feel that subtle shift in your nervous system? That's not placebo. That's not your imagination. That's your brain beginning to build new neural architecture. That's your autonomic nervous system beginning to respond to a new set point. That right there, what you just did in 60 seconds, that's the micro-win. That's the thing most people skip because they think it's too simple, too easy, too obvious. But it's the foundation of everything else. Step 2, the elimination. Now here's where most people resist, And I need you to understand why this step is non-negotiable. You cannot add the new self while maintaining all the inputs that created the old self. It's neurologically impossible. Your brain can't simultaneously strengthen two contradictory neural pathways. So here's what you're going to do in the next 24 hours. Just one day. 24 hours. You're going to unsubscribe from 3 sources of transformation content. Not because they're bad, not because they're wrong, but because they're maintaining the identity of seeker instead of finder. You're going to delete 3 bookmarked videos that you've been telling yourself you'll get to eventually. You're not going to get to them. Your brain knows you're not going to get to them. They're just bookmarks of your aspirational identity, not your actual one. And you're going to close 3 browser tabs that have been open for days or weeks. The articles you'll read later. The courses you'll start eventually. The resources you'll definitely use when the time is right. Close them. All of them. Now, your brain is going to panic. It's going to say, but what if I need that information? What if that's the one thing that would have made the difference? What if I'm giving up on something important? That's the scarcity pattern talking. That's the hoarding mechanism. That's your brain trying to keep you in accumulation mode instead of integration mode. Here's the truth. If you haven't used that information in the last 30 days, you're not going to use it in the next 30 days. And even if you did need it later, you could find it again. Information is abundant. Implementation is rare. This step isn't about deprivation. This is about creating space. Your reticular activating system needs silence to recalibrate. It needs to stop scanning for the next thing so it can finally process what you already know. Think of it like trying to hear a whisper in a nightclub. The whisper isn't the problem. The noise is the problem. Your inner wisdom, your innate capacity for transformation, it's already there. But you can't hear it over the constant barrage of new information. 24 hours. 3 unsubscribes. 3 deleted bookmarks. 3 closed tabs. Can you commit to that? Can you give yourself 24 hours of informational silence? Step 3. The integration. Now here's where transformation becomes permanent. For the next 7 days, you're going to implement one thing you already know. Not something new. Not something from this video. Something you've known for a while but haven't consistently done. Maybe it's a morning routine. Maybe it's a meditation practice. Maybe it's a way of communicating with your partner. Maybe it's a business strategy. Maybe it's a health habit. One thing, 7 days, that's it. And here's the key. You're not doing it perfectly. You're not doing it completely. You're just doing 1 repetition per day. 1 conscious, intentional, embodied repetition. Because the neuroscience is absolutely clear on this. 7 consecutive days of embodied repetition creates a new baseline. Not a habit, a baseline, a new set point in your nervous system. After 7 days of consistent practice, your brain commits resources to building permanent neural structure. The synaptic connections strengthen. The myelin sheathing thickens. The pathway becomes automatic. You're not building willpower. You're not building discipline. You're installing identity. Now, let me show you what we just did here. Let me connect the quantum theory to the daily habit so you can see the bridge. Step 1, the collapse, is the observer effect. You're taking the version of you that exists in quantum superposition, all possible versions, existing simultaneously, and you're collapsing it into one specific probability through sustained, focused, embodied observation. Step 2, the elimination, is clearing the noise that prevents consolidation. Remember how I said neuroplasticity needs the right input sequence? You can't create the right sequence when you're constantly adding new inputs. You need space for the consolidation to happen. Step 3, the integration, is leveraging neuroplasticity correctly. You're not trying to change everything. You're not trying to become perfect. You're giving your brain one clear signal, repeated consistently, that forces it to build new structure. This is the protocol. This is how you bridge the gap between information and transformation, between knowing and being, between seeker and finder. So let's recap your journey here, because I want you to see how far you've actually come in the last 10 minutes. You came into this video probably looking for another piece of the puzzle, another insight, another strategy, another answer to the question that's been driving you forward. What's the missing piece? What don't I know yet? What will finally make everything click? But what you actually discovered is that the puzzle was never incomplete. There was never a missing piece. Your brain was just trapped in a pattern of seeking that prevented finding. The mechanism itself was the problem, not the information. We talked about how your reticular activating system has been calibrated for learning instead of becoming. How every piece of content you consume strengthens the neural pathway of searching instead of the neural pathway of embodying. We went deep into the quantum observer effect and why your consciousness, not your thoughts, not your desires, but your sustained, embodied observation is the mechanism that collapses possibilities into realities. How the version of you that you consistently observe becomes the version of you that you physically become. We explored the information saturation paradox and why more knowledge actually prevents transformation past a certain threshold. How your brain enters cognitive overload state and defaults to more seeking as a coping mechanism for the overwhelm. We did the reality check on homeostasis and identity set points. How your brain generates logical-sounding arguments to protect the current version of you from the perceived threat of change. And how you've been accidentally addicted to the dopamine of anticipation instead of the satisfaction of achievement. And then we walk through the exact 3-step protocol to shift from seeker to finder, the collapse through embodied observation, the elimination of competing inputs, the integration through consistent, repetitive practice. You have everything you need right now to transform, not eventually, not someday, right now. But here's what I didn't tell you at the beginning, and this is where everything crystallizes into something even more powerful. This protocol, the collapse, elimination, integration sequence, this is just the surface structure. This is the basic operating system, and you can absolutely run it manually. You can apply these 3 steps to any area of your life and see profound results. But what if you had a system that automated this entire process? What if you had a framework that took the principles of quantum observation, neuroplasticity, consciousness engineering, and turned them into a living ecosystem that evolves with you? That's what quantum Corey is. And I need to be very clear about what I'm saying here because I don't want you to think this is just another product pitch. I'm not trying to sell you more information. I'm not trying to add another item to your collection of courses and programs. Quantum Corey is not a course. It's not a training. It's not a set of videos you watch and then bookmark for later. It's the metastructure that makes everything else you've learned actually work. It's the integration layer between knowing and being. It's the system that takes all the scattered information you've accumulated and organizes it into a coherent path of embodiment. Most people spend years bouncing between different teachers, different systems, different philosophies. They learn manifestation from one person, productivity from another, relationships from a third, health from a fourth. And they end up with a mental library of contradictory advice and competing frameworks. Quantum Corey gives you the organizing principle that makes all of it coherent. It shows you how manifestation, productivity, relationships, and health are all expressions of the same fundamental mechanism. How they're all different applications of the same quantum principles. It's like learning that arithmetic, geometry, and calculus aren't 3 different subjects. They're all mathematics. They're all the same system expressed at different levels of complexity. And once you see the system, once you understand the underlying structure, you don't need more information. You need integration. And that's exactly what Quantum Corey provides. But more than that, it adapts. As you grow, as you evolve, as you embody new levels of capacity, the system grows with you. It's not a static map. It's a living navigation system. Now, here's where you have a choice. And this choice is actually more significant than you might realize, because it's going to reveal something about your current operating system. Your current reality, the one where you're searching, consuming, bookmarking, waiting for the breakthrough that's just a frequency you've been tuned into. It's a channel. It's a set of neural pathways that have been reinforced over time until they became your default. And every second you stay on that frequency, every moment you continue running the old pattern, you're deepening that neural pathway. You're making it more automatic, more default, more you. But right now, in this moment, you have an opportunity to change the channel, to collapse a different probability wave, to embody a different version of yourself. You can bookmark this video and tell yourself you'll come back to it. You can add quantum Corey to your list of things to look into eventually. You can stay in the pattern of accumulation, of preparation, of getting ready to get ready. And your brain will feel good about that choice because it's familiar. It's safe. It's what you've always done. Or you can click the link below this video right now and actually explore what quantum Corey is. Not to gather more information, not to add it to your collection, but to see if it's the integration system you've been missing. And I want to be honest with you. If you click that link and explore quantum Corey and it's not for you, that's totally fine. Not everything resonates with everyone. Not every system is right for every person at every stage of their journey. But if you don't click it, if you bookmark this instead, if you tell yourself you'll come back to it later, you need to be honest with yourself about what's actually happening. You're not being thoughtful. You're not being cautious. You're running the same pattern that's kept you stuck for however long you've been stuck. The transformation you've been chasing isn't coming. It's not in the next video. It's not in the next course. It's not in the next breakthrough. It's already here. It's already available. You're just observing it from a dimension that keeps it perpetually out of reach. And I know that sounds abstract, but think about it practically. If you had the power to transform, if you had the capacity, the knowledge, the resources, what would stop you? What would be in the way? The answer is, only the version of you that's observing from the frequency of not yet ready, not yet enough, not yet time. But there's another version of you. One that's watching this video from a completely different quantum state. One that recognizes that this is the moment. This is the choice point. This is where the timeline splits. That version of you isn't hesitating. That version of you isn't bookmarking. That version of you is clicking the link and stepping through the doorway. So which version are you going to collapse into reality? Click the link below. Explore quantum Corey. See if it's the metasystem you've been searching for. The transformation isn't coming. It's already here. You're just watching it from the wrong dimension. Change the station. Change the frequency. Change the observation point. And I'll see you on the other side. This is the last video you'll ever need to watch. Not because you'll stop learning, but because you'll finally start becoming. Click the link. Change everything. I'll see you inside.